how are you? Thanks for stopping by for today's video. Today's video is on the book Blaze by Alexandra Silva. This is the third book in the Virtue and Lies series, which is like the most gripping, intense series that I think I've ever read. And I'm just so in love with it. I have done videos on the previous two books. I will put a link to them in the description box below. I'm absolutely in love with Alexandra's writing. I just love on the journey she takes us and how the words she uses, the way she paints a scene for us. She is one of those authors that it plays like a movie in my head because of the way she describes things and how I connect with her characters. And Blaze is about Casper and Fleur. We have met them both previously all the way back in Burn. So it was nice that it was their time to get their story with this book. There's a lot going on in the Virtue and Lies series. So I'm going to tread lightly and still hope to give you the gist and give you my thoughts about the story because it's an ongoing story. We go back to things that we knew about in Burn, and then we go back to things that we knew about in Scorch, and then here we are in Blaze. So we're moving around all the time. I don't know how the girl keeps it straight. Tells you about what an amazing writer she is. Fleur is Cassie's best friend. The web that is weaved in these books is just, everybody means something to everybody. So Fleur's more than just Cassie's best friend. Her dad has a prominent position in what I think is the English Parliament, if I understand what Alex is trying to tell us. Casper is Arabella and Georgina's brother. We, of course, know them from the previous books. More specifically, Bella and Christopher's book was Scorched, so we got to know them, obviously a ton in there, but we also see Casper and Fleur in those books. So there's a lot intertwined in here, and so Casper and Fleur grew up knowing each other because of their friend group and because of their parents' jobs and interaction in all of their lives. There's very specific situations that have happened that we go back to. I kind of mentioned that before, that we go back to and see from Fleur and Casper's point of view, which I really liked. Specifically, there's the night, and when I say that, if you've read the previous books, you'll know what I'm talking about. Something happens this one night that really just blows everything to smithereens. And poor Arabella and Christopher take the brunt of that. So we know about that from Scorch. And picking up in Blaze, we also come to find that that was the night that Fleur and Casper sought solace in each other's arms, and they kind of needed something to ground them. We know that there have been situations that have happened to them very recently. We know those situations from Burn and from Scorch, and we know that those things that happened brought Fleur and Casper closer together. They've known each other forever, but they've never taken the plunge to have it be something more. And as it actually started, it wasn't supposed to be something more. It was supposed to be a way to kind of connect through this horrible situation, and it just so happens that they've had chemistry and they decided to act on it. So now comes the part where I don't want to give you a spoiler, but if you saw any of the social media that Alex has done, or any of the promotion that she has done, I've done on my own pages, there's a little something that happens to them, to Fleur specifically. So if you don't want to know, now's the time to stop. As a result of their intimacy, oopsie daisy, Fleur finds herself pregnant. Something that really stuck with me through this whole book was We already knew Fleur a bit, and I really liked her. I had very high hopes for this book for her because I felt like she had so much depth, and she was so likable, she was so fiery, she was so loyal, she was so take no prisoners, kind of don't screw with me type of girl. And that's exactly what Cassie needed in a best friend. And she fits in so perfectly with all of them. Casper, we know a little bit about. These men in the Virtue and Lies series are really men of few words until they're with the woman that they love. And then we get their hearts, which is so beautiful. And I love the way it's written. So it started out with this thing with Casper and Fleur, started out with them just finding solace in each other and being attracted to each other. And that quickly changes to Fleur getting pregnant and that's when the book starts, and her feelings on that. And we know about her that all she ever wants is to be loved. And in learning more about her, we know that her mom has passed away. We think that her mom might have been troubled. Her father is not a good guy and a really pivotal part to the way this book goes and things that we're trying to find out about some things that are going on. And he never treated her well. He was never nice to her. So she didn't really have a family around her after losing her mom. All of a sudden she finds herself pregnant and she's like, oh my gosh. And she fears that Casper is going to leave. And they haven't made any promises to each other the whole time, but yet they keep finding themselves back in each other's arms. And that was so it was so sweet how Casper responded. Okay, fine. You know, it takes him a little bit, but once he makes the change, and he's all, that's not fair to him. Once they make the decision to kind of go for it, and that decision happens because of Casper's protective nature. And it's something that is ingrained in him and the friend group, Leo, Christopher, Casper. I'm not so sure about Freddie yet. We'll have to see. Freddie is a whole other ball of wax, but these men were groomed for certain positions in their life that we don't really know a lot about. I feel like I'm dancing around some things here, but that being said, when he realizes what's going down, and he realizes that Fleur's life is in jeopardy and thus now his child, he goes into overdrive and he does what he does best, and that is to protect her. I loved them as a couple. I just could feel them in a way. And this is how it is with Alexandra's books. I feel them and their emotion. And of course, we all feel things in a book, right? Hopefully that's what a book does. It moves us to emotion. But her writing and the intensity of this story and this series that she's writing and how she draws the emotions out in me, I just adore. And she has been able to do that now with this third book in a completely different couple and in a completely different way. And it's interesting because yes, of course, Christopher and Arabella had a child and all of that, and they were married and all of that I connected with so deeply. But it's different than Fleur and Casper, and I loved this. It was really sad in places. I was really kind of pissed in places. And, to be honest, wrapping my head around the full story, I had to remember and go back there in my brain and find it and bring up things from Scorch. But it's just amazing because we don't know who the enemy is, and then we know who the enemy is, and then things shift and there's stuff that comes to light, and it looks like Fleur's gonna get everything she could have wanted, but yet it's not with the people she thought it was going to be with. There's so many layers to the story, and to them as people that we get to peel and see, and I loved that. There's some really fantastic imagery and lines, zingers that Alexandra writes from both Fleur and Casper's perspectives. And the imagery that brought forth in my eyes was really special. There's a, not religious, but yes, kind of a religious thing that happens, and I loved the symbolism and how she wrote about it. And she even talks about a Gregorian chant, and I just, being raised Catholic, the Gregorian chants I'm very familiar with, and helped me connect even deeper to the story, which was pretty special because this is the third book. And for her to be able to write it in a way that I kept connecting with it, I think was really special. Something means everything in this book. You have to pay attention because that's how you'll get the full experience. And I had that happen to me in this passage, and then something after that. And so I highlighted it because I wanted to remember to talk about it. And this is the passage I'd like to share with you. Ryan holds out his fisted hand, allowing whatever's in it to drop until it's hanging off the tip of his middle finger. At the sight of it, my heart begins to race. The way the gems glitter in the sunlight is different to how they shone in candlelight. All the times Casper sat twirling them between his fingers when I would sketch him. He wore the rosary as though it was a piece of everyday jewelry, like a person might wear a crucifix. Where did you get that? I asked Ryan, grabbing at it at the same time as Casper's grandmother. He wore it all the time. We face each other when she takes it from both our hands. He gave it to me when he told me to bring you here. What does it mean? My question comes out sharper than I intended with my discomfort. Blood, Beatrice answers my question, fingering the ruby bead before moving on to the sapphire one, just as Casper used to. Mercy. Watchful gaze on me as she fingers the rest of the beads. Emerald, citrine, and diamond. Salvation, hope, and peace. Blood to live, mercy for the enemy, salvation to survive, hope to love, peace in death. I loved how she wrote that, and it was so meaningful. I own, how many? Probably 20 rosaries, and reading this made me want to go find one that's exactly how she described it. And it goes on to say, taking my hand from my belly, she holds my palm up before coiling the rosary onto it. Yours now. Blood, mercy, salvation, hope, and peace. The words are muted by the sadness lining her voice as she guides me to her side and then walks us inside. My father taught us those things. I taught my Casper. They make greatness, great men. He was greatness embodied. I knew that from the moment I allowed him to put me in his car. A kind gesture masked with his cocky attitude. Maybe that's why he was so easy to fall in love with, impossible to shy away from. And women, she says. Greatness makes kings and queens, but more importantly, it can destroy them. There's a really beautiful moment where, and I don't want to tell you exactly what it is, but it's really special. I'll give you that. And I feel like I've said it 1,000 times. I loved reading it, but Fleur says this, and it just made my heart clench. There's a moment when Fleur and Casper are doing something, and it's really beautiful, and I don't want to tell you everything, but everyone's around and watching, and Fleur says something that I just loved. I imagine this is what it feels like for nature when everything in the universe aligns. In that moment where the moon eclipses the sun and there's nothing but peace and darkness. For a moment, everything ceases to exist. And this is where I say that Alex's writing is intense, and I love it because how beautiful that was written, and in the situation that it's in, and how Fleur feels at that moment brings tears to my eyes because it was such a beautiful moment, and the way she expresses that with these words is just amazing. Casper is super yummy, and I hate to even like use such plain words to talk about such a magnificent creature. I really loved Christopher. He just, and I loved Leo too, but there was something really extra special about Christopher, and let me tell you that Casper is giving Christopher a run for his money in this book. Wow. I highlighted so many of passages that he said and chapters from his perspective that I actually surprised myself when I went back in preparing for the video. And here's one of those moments where he was extra swoony. We live together, we love together. If it comes to it, we die together. There's no me without you, so I will always protect you. As much as I love your body, it's your soul I'm in love with. Even if you think I'm crazy for it, it's your soul I want. Why do you think I gave you mine? And this is Fleur describing Casper. Casper is steadfast. He's unwavering and unrelenting hold on me never ceases. That's what makes me happy. It's what makes my heart soar with the possibilities of the life ahead of us. It started with nothing but curiosity, a fascination with the art on his skin. Then he looked at me and I felt seen, like I'd never been seen before. He held me up like no one ever had. Somehow we've ended up here with me in his arms, loving me. Casper holds me as though I am his life. Tight, hard, and without pause. This is our forever. It's not a spoken promise or fate, it just is. Casper is my foregone natural conclusion, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. Oh, so beautiful. Let me know if you have read Burn or Scorch in the comments below. I would highly recommend them if you haven't. And I would love for you to take a moment to give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It not only helps me and my channel, but it will help this video get better visibility on YouTube. Also, in the description box, I always put the links to my social media, so come on over and say hi to me. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.